Ah, there you are. Wondered how long it would be before you put the thing on? Now, as you probably gathered, the video cassette you're playing is no ordinary VHS. It's actually a carrier for one of these, a TM-12,000 audio digital satellite homing chip. It's a devilish clever little device from our American cousins. Now, it enables me to beam directly into your living room from London via the satellite. Naturally, the one you're carrying is only a prototype, but it does seem to be working rather well. Right. Now, I haven't got all day, so let's get on with it. Elms ordered me to brief you on the world of 007. It goes without saying that the footage in this briefing is highly classified. Let's start with 007's aviation skills. Now for this, we'll be dealing with Vic Armstrong, British agent, Mark Wolf, US agent, and Dickie Beer, former Dutch national. Every one of these guys are highly experienced Bond campaigners. They really are the best in the field. So please, pay attention.
My name's Vic Armstrong. I'm the second unit director.
I'm Dickie Beer, stunt coordinator.
My name's Mark Wolf and I'm the aerial coordinator. We're going to do this sequence where they fire the ejector seat from one airplane into the other.
It's going to be shot in the Alps at Perry Sood. I'm Bond. Will climb into the cockpit here, have a fight with the pilot. Start taxiing the plane around on full bore. At the same time, rockets and machine cannon fire is going, so everything here is just being blown to smithereens. People are going to race around behind Bond with a truck here, and he'll just give it full bore on his afterburners and blow this whole truck and people over with the afterburner. Start racing along here. He will then taxi down this really steep runway. He disappears down there. This other jet has started up and is going off in pursuit of him. Bond boy this time will have turned around at the bottom of the runway, and all this is intercut with a cruise missile coming over. It's going to hit here, so he's literally got seconds to spare. Bond will then give it full bore up the runway.
Bond takes off.
Just as he's about to lift off, he sees the other jet coming at him, so he takes off and literally wheels scrape tailplane over the top here as this blast goes off, creating a huge fireball, and we all think, has he gone, hasn't he gone? But we probably think he hasn't, because it's the beginning of the movie.
The baddie is chasing him in another jet. Also, the baddie is trying to strangle him in the back.
At the end of the dogfight, fire the co-pilot in his ejector seat out of it, and the co-pilot fly into the cockpit of the plane that was chasing him. The co-pilot who was shot out of Bond's plane would end up in the other plane with his feet sticking up.
Most of it will be done for real.
First idea was to use me for that because A, I'm used to flying and I do aerobatics myself. The G-forces I can sort of handle.
Normal landing for this aircraft is about 100, 120 maximum. And so they're getting very close to their tire blowout speed, and they have to be very careful that they don't hit too hard, otherwise they'll blow a tire and splatter themselves against the runway. We haven't had much chance to practice because the weather, as you can see, has been foul.
I think it's quite funny, actually.
Backseat driver.
throughout the transmission of this briefing, you must expect to experience a touch of interference from time to time. Now, as I warned, the TM12000 is just a prototype. Now, I do hope you'll be more understanding than some people I could mention. Now, the next section of this briefing comes from British agent Daniel Kleiman, who's been working closely with 007 for some time now. He's based in London and has one of the best undercover stories of any agent currently in duty. He masquerades as a rock and roll music video director. Now, not only does this enable him access to the latest in computer technology, but it allows him to travel all over the world from location to location, carrying information and equipment between agents and governments without arousing suspicion.
If you're going to do title sequences to movies, then the Bond title sequence is the great iconographic big one of title sequences. It's an adolescent fantasy, and actually to make it is probably adolescent fantasy come true. What I wanted to get to begin with was this effect that the whole screen smashes open, or like an enormous TV screen that smashes open, and you travel into it, and you travel through a kind of stylized version of what cyberspace might be. Was seeing below the surface of things. In a way, it's seeing behind the news.
Darling, I'm killed.
This is actually Bond's watch, and it turns into a negative. It's kind of got quite a techno edge to it. There's quite a lot of images that are X-ray images, and screens that pull apart, and screens that explode, and you see behind. You're seeing behind the images, you're seeing through guns into the X-ray workings of them, and you're seeing behind screens and inside TV sets and inside cyberspace and looking beyond the surface. It looks like she kind of pulls out of this circuit diagram that we've seen growing across the screen. It's all girls this time. I decided not to put a Bond character in. There are certain elements in Bond that you can't throw out. This girl fires a bullet. Again, we're in some sort of strange X-ray world. Bullet then starts smashing all these floating TV screens, and that reveals through to a world of smoky women. They're kind of floating through smashed up screens. You've got these girls made out of smoke, which eventually you realise is smoke coming from a gun. And we're back in the X-ray gun world. Starts of the film opens up with it's like a car boot sale of guns, and this vaguely has reference to that. What I originally intended was to reflect the feeling of communication and technology and satellites and mass media in a sort of abstract, surreal way. It reveals, the screens reveal this girl, and these diamonds fly off her neck and become like satellites around the world. Things moved on. I'm trying to make it more modern. She falls through all these screens, there's more cyberspace stuff, and as she's falling towards this great, enormous TV screen, the ultimate music video crossed with your ultimate adolescent fantasy.
That's quite enough adolescent fantasies for one day, thank you. Now, 00 agents are trained to work as lone operatives. They're very rarely allowed to collaborate with any other of Her Majesty's agents. They're strictly forbidden from collaborating with foreign operatives, and under no circumstances whatsoever are they permitted to divulge or trade any information that comes their way with any other person or persons. Unfortunately, Commander Bond has never been one to adhere to the rules. He continually enlists help on his assignments. More often than not, he enlists the help of females. Naturally enough, These collaborations rarely make it into the ridiculously short reports he hands in to M once his assignments are completed. But I know for a fact that they occur. But his last assignment was no exception. Officer Llewelyn of the Chinese People's Secret Army is a more than able partner for 007. I've long been an admirer of the training techniques of the Chinese Secret Service and the agents it produces, and Officer Llewelyn proved to be no exception. She's multilingual, trained in every conceivable martial art, and highly experienced with literally dozens of Asian assignments to her name. I think for once 007 actually met his match, and may even have learnt a new thing or two, although that might be pushing it a bit. This profile on Officer Llewelyn has been compiled by two of our most respected agents, Agent Director Roger Spottiswoode and Agent Producer Michael Wilson. It also includes a personal assessment from Officer Lynn herself.
I thought we should finally have an interesting, grown-up woman in it, not just wonderful, voluptuous babes.
We really wrote the role for her.
She's not a bimbo.
We wanted an agent.
The Chinese 007.
Bond's equal in different ways.
I, first of all, never imagined that I would be an actress. My background started from ballet and dance. I only started to do martial arts since about 12 years ago when I did my first action movie.
She's beautiful and she's striking and strong and amazing physically.
I met up with the producer and he turned around to me and said, you know, you would be perfect in a Bond movie. And I thought, yes, I would be. So this was 2 years ago, and last year, finally in October, I got my first phone call to say, the story seems to be working in your direction. So we met up in London, we met up again in Milan, we met up again in Hong Kong, and finally I met Piers here in London at the end of December. And guess what? I got it!
Quiet place rehearsal.
I've been doing action movies on and off for the last 12 years.
You see, Mr. Bond, I have a backup plan.
So I've been doing some pretty dangerous stuff from before.
So do I. She does all her own stunts and she's wonderful.
Doing action movies, you know, you do stuff that you would not be able to do normally.
I think great stunts that you really do are terrific and people somehow know it.
With the insurance and all that, it's too dangerous. They don't want anything to happen to you. But when I'm there, you know, Piers and I, like, we should go for it. I've learned from the best people in the industry. So I've learned from like some incredible stunt people, actors who have been well versed in this form of movie making. Sorry.
She's the sort of established action heroine in Asia.
I've always worked on only Asian movies before.
She was perfect for us.
This is my biggest ever budget movie. Whether it's a big movie or a small movie, at the end of the day, you want to do a good movie. Just give it your best.
Lucky for you, I stopped by.
I could have
taken care of him.
Over the years, 007 has been called upon to risk his life in the air for Queen and country. He has fought out of the back of an aeroplane, and he's even battled the enemy of state in outer space. His last assignment called for him to skydive over the South China Seas in an attempt to locate the sunken ship HMS Devonshire. Now, in order to do this, he had to free fall for over 14,000 feet. At times, 007 was falling at up to 200 miles an hour, head first. And in order to avoid being picked up by the Vietnamese radar, he was unable to open his parachute until he was just 200 feet above water. Now, naturally, Commander Bond was trained by the very best in order to complete the jump. The training came via 007's CIA connection, Jack Wade. Wade provided parachute jump specialist Agent Worth for the training. Agent Worth is one of the world's most experienced high-altitude, low-opening jumpers, or Halo as we like to call it. Anyway, Agent Worth has over 27 years of experience. He trained 007 first at Arizona with a 12,000 feet drop, and then at Florida with a drop of 14,000 feet.
Bail out at 29,000 feet. You free fall for 5 miles and use your oxygen or you'll die of asphyxiation. Sounds like our first marriage.
Whenever you release parachutes above the water, you always have the problem that you might smack in the wrong way.
Pop the chute at 200 feet below the Chinese radar. You'll be traveling over 200 miles an hour. This snaps your head back like a cantaloupe. Be careful not to crack your skull open on the tank.
Because they want Bond to cut away at fairly high altitude, there's a chance that I might get tipped over, smash my face, the tanks might come up and I start to pull my harness off.
I'll keep that in mind.
So there's a chance I'm going to get bruised or something like that, or hit the water so hard that I get smacked around. But we just sort of take that risk, and I know there's going to be good safety people there right after I land.
Pick up, sir. Oh, you bet. After your mission, turn on your beacon. And the extraction team will pick you up after dark. Here it is, say goodbye.
Into the water, there's always the problem of flotation and having a rescue situation. And so the water safety people are right on me real quick, but they have to be far enough away to be out of the shot.
No 00 agent ever goes out into the field unprepared. A limitless number of spies on Her Majesty's payroll provide us with all the information we could hope for. Now, this ensures that our agents are as fully briefed as possible. The fewer surprises they encounter on the way, the more successful a mission it is likely to be. Wherever possible, we try to obtain photographs and video footage of the locations our agents have to break into. However, it's not always possible to obtain physical evidence. We often have to rely on plans and maps. There are even some extreme cases when we are forced to turn to the educated guesswork of sketch drawers. Now, such a specialist was used to help Commander Bond find his way around the sunken HMS Devonshire. Although we had the original plans of the ship, we had to account for the damage inflicted by both the torpedoes and the actual sinking of the ship. In order to account for these changes, we called in Special Agent Martin Asbury. He's a veteran Bond collaborator, having previously aided 007 on Operation GoldenEye.
My name is Martin Asbury, and I'm a storyboard artist.
a visual script. How a sequence will start from A to B to C and finish. A lot of my work is just an indication of what they're going to do. But nevertheless, possibly an essential indication because of the other members of the unit. The director knows what he's going to do, but everybody else doesn't. The old story, a picture tells 1,000 words, is very true in this case, I think. And we are in a visual medium anyway, so it helps everybody to know roughly what's going to be shot. You can save an awful lot of money if you know what essential shots you need. So you don't have to shoot a complete 360 degree of any particular set. And go only part of the set. Especially if you work hand in glove with the production designer. But you don't want to step on anybody's toes. So one tends to do exactly what the director wants. It really does differ from director to director. The director wished to actually create the storyboards with me. He would sit with me and tell me exactly what he wanted, and then he would shoot what I drew. I'm usually used for the action sequences and special effects. Nowadays, the dialogue sequences the director likes to do totally himself as a principal.
Despite his own beliefs to the contrary, 007 is not perfect. One of his biggest faults is that he continually finds himself being captured by the enemy. Now, although he does always manage to escape in the end, the means of escape he often uses are often so dangerous that it has become very difficult for us to find life insurance for him. And naturally, when you consider the many millions of pounds that go into training a 00 agent, and you can understand why M doesn't want such a valuable commodity walking around without suitable cover. When it comes to dangerous escapes, none have been more so than his most recent.
Here we are in Thailand, doing the escape from the high-rise down the banner. Both Pierce and Michelle are really good at this stuff, and they quite like doing it. They play it very well.
That was a fun sequence.
If you're fighting, you shouldn't do it, because obviously you're not going to be able to handle the situation well. There are moments when you get hurt. We can use the banner.
These movies are just, you need stamina.
Get after them!
Ready? Go! You can't be frightened.
I just did it.
We're coming down, the face of Jonathan Pryce. From his eyebrows down to his chin, down to his chest, and every day it's like, you mean we're still traveling on his face?
A lot of fingers were crossed that day.
I almost lost it.
You're out of control.
They know how to do it. They're both incredibly physical. And I suspect there was a little bit of, I'm not flinching if you're not flinching.
You're being pulled up and come down. It's just that strain, because you can't make it look too easy. Because when it looks too easy, then it will show on the camera. One arm got like 2 inches longer than the other one by the time we finished. So we're both walking lopsided.
Exhausting. This is much more physical than the last one.
Wow, it's gonna look great when it comes out.
Next time I'll take the elevator.
Commander Bond has come up against some of the world's most evil men and women in our battle to keep the world free from danger and chaos. But the most evil of all was his most recent adversary, Elliot Carver. He formed a private army, stole an American satellite controller, and built the world's first stealth ship. This really did sound like quite a vessel. Oh, unfortunately, I'm unlikely ever to see it, because 007 made sure it ended its service at the bottom of the South China Sea.
How much do you know about Elliot Carver, 007?
Initially, the idea of playing the villain in a Bond film is very attractive.
Worldwide media ban. Owns newspapers, radio, satellite, TV, movies, books, theme parks. Able to topple governments with a single broadcast.
It also depended very much on the script and the nature of the character.
Mr. Stamp, I'm having fun with my headlines.
I've been asked to do things in the past where you play the villain and you're reading the script and it's all working out very well, and so it's a good baddie, delicious. And then you get to the point where there's a 4-page fist fight with either Stallone and Schwarzenegger, and you think, I don't think that's quite what I do.
Good morning, my golden retrievers. What kind of havoc shall the Carver Media Group create in the world today?
Whereas this baddie is something that I was immediately attracted to.
News.
Floods in Pakistan, riots in Paris, and a plane crash in California.
Excellent.
It's based on a great deal of truth about media moguls, the power of the media, the dangers of the media being in the hands of one or, at the most 2 people.
Mr. Wallace, call the president. Tell him if he doesn't sign the bill doubling the telephone rates, we'll release the video of him with the cheerleader in the Chicago motel room. Conspires. And after he signs the bill, release the tape anyway.
Consider him slimed.
There's kind of theatricality about the way he speaks.
Gentlemen and ladies, hold the presses. This just in.
If you imagine that the guy is on a huge ego trip anyway, it's very enjoyable to do.
I want magazine stories, I want books, I want movies, TV, radio. I want us on the air 24 hours a day. This is our moment. And 1 billion people around this planet will watch it, hear it, and read about it from the Carver Media Group.
It's very nice to have a character who shows the audience anyway, a public side and a private side.
There's absolutely no truth in this malicious rumor that I started running the mad cow disease story simply because Sir Angus Black, the great British beef baron, lost £10,000 in a game of poker to me and refused to pay up.
It's unusual in this kind of characters. The public side is enigmatic and charming.
Darling.
And the private side is evil. It's very nice to meet Terry Hatcher, who I only ever used to watch on TV when I was doing Oliver in the West End.
I've been looking everywhere for you.
Superman was on between the matinee and the evening show on a Saturday. And that's how I'd spend my tea time with Terry.
This is James Bond.
I didn't realize you knew each other.
Yes, people do go and see James Bond, but he cannot exist without an adversary. And so you are the driving force of the film.
Caesar had his legions, Napoleon had his armies. I have my divisions. TV, news, magazine.
He's one of the great villains.
And by midnight tonight, I'll have reached and influenced more people than anyone in the history of this planet, save God himself. And the best he ever managed was a Sermon on the Mount.
I think it's fun, mostly.
You really are quite insane.
The distance between insanity and genius is measured only by success.
The new BMW 750iL is just under 17 feet long and costs more than £73,000 to buy. Well, at least the standard model does. 007 drives a slightly more sophisticated version. Well, I fitted it with a variety of gadgets, from wire cutters to rocket launchers. But I'm particularly pleased with the remote control that comes with the vehicle. It looks like an ordinary cell phone, but actually unfolds to be a means of driving the vehicle when the steering wheel is out of reach.
Does it have a CD player?
Unfortunately, no matter what extras I give 007's vehicles, all he's ever interested in is the car radio. Most recently, he's been listening to a fellow called David Arnold.
There's a real excitement about doing Bond music. Musicians really get fired up for doing that, because it's creating a little piece of sort of popular history. To say that you're doing a Bond movie, it's like it still means something. I think what that is, I think everyone's had a great experience with a Bond movie in the cinema at some point in their life. They've seen one and it's gone wow. And I think every time you go back to it, you go back to a new one, you're kind of willing it to be as great as the one that you think is your favourite. It's the only car chase I've ever seen where no one actually gets to go anywhere. It seemed like, the car chase that I've been waiting sort of 20 years to see, Especially after the last one when, the car was in it for about 10 seconds and then it drove off again and it seemed like, well, I want to see it blowing something up. In a way, I'm writing the music for this film the way I'd want to hear it if I was just a fan going to see it in the cinema. And for me with the music, it's like I know how important the music was when I heard it and how overwhelmed I was with it. But I thought it's a really good chance to do something sort of contemporary and exciting and sort of rhythm driven. Other than try and forge some, new direction, let's go that way, let's modernise it, so it's unrecognisable, or let's twist it and turn it and change it, and then it's like, well, what's the point of doing that? There are contemporary elements that happen in the score, but it's always married to the kind of traditional sound of it. I waited until this happened before I played the Bond theme. When you advertise a movie, you promise something, and when you go and see it, you have to deliver it. And I think people go to a Bond movie expecting to hear certain things. I do. And if it's not there, I kind of really miss it, and it makes it a disappointing experience. We hadn't heard the sort of twangy guitar yet, so I was going to save that for a good moment, At a point when you go, yes, it's like, yes again, and then yes again. But we do it with this, outrageous. It's trying to find a way of keeping it tense and keeping it exciting. And we have complete chaos.
Congratulations on a safe journey.
Outrageous. Like it should be.
Now, one of the most important traits a 00 agent must have is anonymity. He must be able to lose himself in any crowd and must never be recognized by a potential enemy. 007 is no different. But he has a specialist who takes care of his wardrobe. She is Special Agent Lindy Hemming, and here she is, to explain the difficulty of hiding 007 at major social events.
Well, there were 500 extras.
It's time to begin the festivities.
The minimum was 500, I think, to fill the space. We did a kind of product placement thing. Barbara Broccoli gave us permission to use real models to wear the stuff. We were allowed to hire 20 elite models and dress them. We put feelers out to all designers, starting with people like Thierry Mugler, who worked with us on GoldenEye, and Catherine Hamnett, Vivienne Westwood, Moschino, Kenzo. Everybody, they were wonderful. They all sent pieces of their collections to us. Then I designed and had made by Angels a whole set of other clothes which were meant to be modern and fashionable and slightly glittery, so that we'd get a little bit of, we used reflective fabrics and we used some of the hologram fabrics and things like that, so that we'd get sparkle in among the crowd.
Outstanding. I admire a woman who takes the initiative.
And we got really the best of the extras, the nicest looking extras from the extras agency that we could to wear them. We just tried to control it all the time and make sure that people who came in front of the camera had the best clothes.
I always wondered how I'd feel if I ever saw you again. Was it something I said?
How about the words, "I'll be right back"?
Tried to make sure that the menswear was more colourful than the usual plain tuxedo. Had some suits made for men out of African fabric. It's easy. I mean, the thing is, if you're designing for a character, it's not so easy, because you have to really spend time talking to the actor and think how it works in the script and everything. But if you're just designing things that you like or you think would look good, it's much easier. You just choose fabrics you like and have them made in sizes that seem appropriate, and then find people to wear them. I just enjoyed myself.
On his last assignment, 007 had access to BMW's new 1170cc motorcycle. And when I say new, I mean new. Why, he had it even before the vehicle was released to the general public. It has high handlebars, low seat, forward-mounting front pegs, and a twin engine. It's £10,000 worth of German engineering at its best. Now, any experienced driver would love it, but it is not a stunt motorcycle. Unfortunately, the limitations of a vehicle rarely interest 007. I know that Commander Bond is fully licensed to drive any vehicle known to mankind, but I do believe there's a strong argument for having him retested. Anyway, taking us through Bond's abuse of the motorcycle are Agent Director Roger Spottiswoode, who you've already met, and Special Agent Alan Cameron. This is their report.
I felt, having seen GoldenEye, was that they had a wonderful sequence with the tank in it. We have to try and come up with something that's as good. And I didn't know how to put him in a bigger vehicle, so I thought I'd better do the opposite and put him in the most vulnerable, fragile position, and a motorcycle was that. He has one hand on the handlebar. She has the other hand on the handlebar, which makes it more interesting.
What are you? Give me that! Clutch, clutch, clutch!
Turn right!
No, left!
Who's driving?
My name's Alan Cameron. I'm the production designer on the latest James Bond film. Quite a major chase sequence takes place in Ho Chi Minh City. We pick Bond up after he's gone across the rooftops. He comes into this room. There's a helicopter flying down the street. The motorbike leaps across the helicopter.
Most of our stunts are actually done. We weren't do that at all. We were going to do that in a computer. And then we had this great driver, this French driver, and he said, no, I want to do it. We all cringed and said, no, fine. And he talked us into it, and then he did it.
And then he races on his motorbike along all these balconies. It's a heavy motorbike, and the balconies are all collapsing. And then he leaps off the balcony down into a market sequence.
I thought the pursuers had to be somewhat special. So I thought maybe a helicopter. Take a helicopter through the market. We would use the blades to cut up everything inside. And use the blades finally at the end of the chase to cut them in half.
Trapped.
So it would become a kind of David and Goliath situation at the end.
Never.
She'd grow up, and I'm not the only one. Both Commander Bond and myself have to answer to the same person, M. In nearly 40 years of service, she's only the third superior I've had. And I must say that she's been a most excellent leader. She also has a life outside of the job, which is something I never imagined possible. Nevertheless, it's not interfered with her work as far as I can see. Her hobby is amateur dramatics. And by all accounts, she's very good. As also is her secretary, the ever-helpful Moneypenny.
IDs. But it's quite difficult to play a woman who is so much in authority.
Our Singapore station picked up a mysterious signal on the GPS frequency at the time of the attack.
In a kind of feminine way, I suppose.
I have a missing British frigate.
I'm aware of that.
And instead of decisive action, all you want to do is investigate.
My goal is to prevent World War III, Admiral.
I find it quite difficult, but I've got some jolly nice lines to say.
With all due respect, Tim, sometimes I don't think you have the balls for this job.
Perhaps. The advantage is I don't have to think with them all the time.
That's enough.
You're not really aware of the size of the film when you're doing it, but you are aware of the size of the set. I mean, here's this one we're sitting, this huge set. The operations room in the Ministry of Defence. I have to keep reminding myself that this is not real. That, you see screens and you see people dressed up as naval officers and things, and it can completely overwhelm you. Or it certainly overwhelms me. And yet you look at the back of it and you think, just a lot of old wood, really. It is a bit nerve-wracking that you've got to get it done in 5 days, but everybody on the crew is very, very organised. It's not really my worry that I've got to get it in. It's Roger Spottiswood's worry and the crew, who are phenomenal.
I'm Samantha Bond, and I play Moneypenny.
James? Where are you?
Oh, Moneypenny. I'm just up here at Oxford, brushing up on a little Danish.
Always were a cunning linguist, James.
She's M.
Don't ask.
And I'm the secretary.
Don't tell.
I first met Judy nearly 10 years ago now, I think, when she directed me in Much Ado About Nothing, which we did on the stage with Ken Branagh.
And I've known her for a long time.
Ken and I then did Romeo and Juliet on the radio, and Judy was the nurse.
I was at Central with her father.
We've done The Importance of Being Earnest, with her being Bracknell and me being Gwendolyn.
He's about to play my daughter in a play at the National.
Our paths crisscross throughout the years.
It's rather incestuous, isn't it, all of it?
Other people seem to have a much clearer idea of who Moneypenny is than I do. She's become, over the years, a sort of an icon that many people feel they know terribly, terribly well.
Good evening, Moneypenny.
Good evening, James. When I first got the job and I was rather daunted and wasn't sure what I was taking on, because you take on a huge mantle of responsibility, and there's an awful lot of people not wishing to be let down by you.
Never seen you after hours, Moneypenny. Lovely.
Thank you, James.
I think it's more interesting to be playing a strong, independent woman.
Out on some kind of professional assignment? Dressing to kill?
Do you all find this crushing, 007? When I don't sit at home every night praying for some international incident, so I can run down here all dressed up to impress James Bond.
Though there is still the quiet longing.
What would I ever do without you?
As far as I can remember, James, you've never had me.
But as a modern woman, you deal with that in a different way.
Springs eternal.
You know, this sort of behavior could qualify as sexual harassment.
Really? What's the penalty for that?
Someday you have to make good on your innuendos.
I was so immensely proud of what a good film GoldenEye was, really. It's the most huge following that the films have. I mean, the mail that I get from Moneypenny that goes on.
Sign here, please.
I had one like 2 days ago saying it's this huge envelope saying from 16 loyal fans. And they'd obviously all sat round having this dinner and written me this letter and all signed it at the bottom. It was the bizarrest thing.
I believe you once had a relationship with Carver's wife, Paris.
I didn't realize it was public knowledge.
Queen and country, James.
I was once having coffee with a girlfriend in Richmond, which is near where I live. And apparently I was completely oblivious to it. The woman sitting beside me was literally going like that. And you want to say, haven't you recognised me? I'm looking like a tired mother with no makeup on. But they do. It's very strange.
Elliot Carver had the world's first ever stealth boat designed and built by John Richardson.
My name's John Richardson and I'm the model effects supervisor for Tomorrow Never Dies. A lot of movies, but particularly these type of movies, there are a lot of things that you can't do for real. There are scenes which take place on one of Her Majesty's frigates, and the Royal Navy were kind enough to allow us to shoot on one, but they didn't have a good enough sense of humour to let us sink one.
Knock, knock.
So when it comes to sinking a ship, obviously we have to revert to other methods, and model being the best way of doing it.
Brace, brace, brace!
We're filming this at the water tank in Rosarito Bay in Mexico, which was actually built for James Cameron's Titanic movie. We're using it because it is literally the biggest and best water tank in the world. I mean, it's the only place to do a sequence like this. The tank itself holds 17 million gallons of water, so it enables us to do everything in what looks like a natural sea environment, but obviously a totally controlled situation. This is the villain ship in the story. Well, it's 1/8 scale. It's 55 feet long. It weighs probably 3.5 tons. The two ships took about 3.5 months to construct. The design of the Stealth was actually going on while we were building it, which made it a rather sort of time-consuming thing. The detail that goes into the construction, which is all, part of the whole model scene, is getting the ship moving against the water at the right speed and then filming it at the right speed, because water is probably one of the most difficult things to shoot and miniaturize. It's supposed to represent a ship 240 feet long. We're going to do part of the sequence where it blows up. It's the typical Bond end sequence where the baddie gets his comeuppance. The Stealth is being shelled by the frigate. it's already been hit a few times, and now we're going to hit it a few more times. That's what makes it all worth doing.
Typical 007. He has to blow everything up. Now that ship would have been quite something to study. Anyway, the final part of this briefing covers Commander Bond himself. I've gathered together the thoughts and opinions of all who've worked with him recently. I've not included my own thoughts.
Now, after 32 years, I think there's a real romance with it.
He's a character that most people absolutely love.
Whether you like it or not, he's still, you know, the ultimate playboy.
If you do it right, then it can be very appealing.
I'm trying to find someone who didn't grow up with the Bond series.
You realize that people are closet Bond fans. I mean, I grew up with it.
I was an addict, so I saw maybe the first 5 or 8, and then I didn't see all of the rest. And then so GoldenEye was terrific, and the chance to do one of these was just too wonderful.
There was one friend of mine, I mean, he's in the business, he's a manager. I didn't realize he was such a Bond fanatic. So I became like the Pope to him. It was a bit crazy.
It's like with the guys, it's like, I want to be James Bond, you know, because he's like incredible, invincible, he's sexy, he always gets all the great-looking babes, you know.
Most interesting sort of mystery thrillers that there are.
He has a license to kill people.
There's the locations, there are the women, there are the gadgets, there are the toys, and standing amidst all of this is the guy himself, I mean Bond.
He can do anything he wants and he can get away with it.
Who doesn't know? It's like you've grown up with him.
They just have a wonderful formula, and it's one of the only films where having a formula actually works for you, because you get to play with it, you get to make changes and then refer to things that are in the past. It's really great.
But to play the role is great fun. I mean, it's hard work, and you don't want to let anybody down. You want to do the best you possibly can.
A well-loved character, and to be part of it is like being part of something very special.
Playing the character, it's like Jekyll and Hyde now, really. It's him. It's him and me and him, you know. And every now and then he comes out.
Pierce has established himself as Bond. He is the James Bond. I mean, I like the guys in between, but I think he is the first person after Sean to be the true successor. Everywhere we go here in Thailand, I mean.
Good morning.
It's amazing, the press we had at our news conference. The turnout was sensational.
Here's Brosnan. Who's that? No.
Oh, he's so unattractive. It's miserable.
People in the streets, they think you're him.
We're friends now.
He's very, very funny.
When I started telling people in Hollywood that I was going to do it, and everyone across the board says that Pierce is the nicest person in the world to work with, and I really found that to be true.
Does that tickle?
He makes you feel very, very much a part of what is his film. And he makes you want to be good and supportive and behind him, and he's a lovely leader.
Bond. James Bond. Bloody great.
So there you have it. A full and comprehensive briefing on the world of 007. I would just like to re-emphasize the highly classified nature of this material and remind you not to share any of this information with anyone. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have to be off. I understand M is already briefing Bond on his next assignment. No doubt my help will be needed and unappreciated.
Darling, I'm killed. I'm in a puddle on the floor, waiting for you to return. Oh, what a thrill. Fascinations galore. How you tease, how you leave me to burn. It's so deadly, my dear. Bye.